can probably cook a real good steak, but you probably can't cook steaks like these guys. You see, they compete in what's called the World Champion Steak Cook-Off, also known as the SCA, Steak Cook-Off Association. Every year, thousands of people worldwide take part in a sanctioned competition, and it's not just a couple of guys drinking beer and grilling steaks. This is a serious steak cook-off competition with serious chefs and serious steaks. And out of all the competitors, there can only be one winner. And the current world champion steak cooking is Karen. I'm not kidding. Karen's winning the steak cook-off competitions. Yep, it's happening. This is not just any Karen, this is Karen Wright. And she made a video for us explaining exactly how she won that competition. So, you and me, we're gonna try to attempt to make the World Championship steak. The first secret that Karen is giving us is the try hard. I'll explain. At the beginning of a barbecue competition, you have to select your steak. Basically, the steaks are provided for you, it's always a ribeye, and then you have to pick one. And I think it's based on some kind of a lottery. And in the order that you pick the lottery, you get to also choose the steak. So it's a big thing. So the luck is definitely a part of the competition. But even if you get to pick first, you still have to know which steak to choose. And to be able to show it to you, I bought the whole ribeye roast. So the plan is just to cut this up into steaks and then take a look at every steak and find the right one. The one with the try hard. Now normally I would just go for 2.5 finger thick steak and get the most amazing thing, but that's not how barbecue competitions work. That would cost way too much money. So what they do is they give you about 1.5 finger thick steaks and kind of have to figure that out. Now that is an amazing steak. And it actually comes from a crossbreed between Black Angus and Holsteiner dairy cows that have been raised and fed in the perfect way to get the absolute perfect steak. It's going to continue, and we need to have these steaks thick enough so we can work with them in a competition style, but we don't need them to be too thick. Karen is talking about hearts, and if you think about hearts, then this is the heart of the ribeye, the eye. And this is the spinalis, it's the muscle that sits on the outside. But there's no try hearts here. This is not the steak Karen's looking for. This is also not the steak Karen's looking for. Not the steak Karen's looking for. Not the steak Karen's looking for. We're getting closer. This steak has 1, 2, 3 hearts. That is getting closer to what we're looking for, but it's not perfect yet. Found it, there it is. The steak with the 3 hearts. 1, 2, 3. This is the steak that Karen's looking out for. And it's very, very close to the chuck steak. This is the end of the ribeye. Let me take out the quick comparison. This is like the ribeye that you normally want with a big eye. Look at that. That one, that's the one you want, but not Karen. Karen wins with this steak, the try hard ribeye steak. I understand that you might be thinking, wow, this Karen, I don't know about this Karen. This might be just like a fluke or something. This is not what I learned. This is not what they taught me. Well, you see, in barbecue competitions, there is a thing like single bites. It's a jury sport, and people have to take a bite and then give you a score. But it's not just one person. There are a table full of persons that need to have that bite. 5 bites to be exact. And you need to have 5 bites out of each steak. It's even a little more tricky because you have to present your steak in a box. Like this. Take your steak, you put it in a box, you give it to the judges, of course when it's done, and then they go and they just cut a bite and eat it. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Because you get to choose which side of the steak they're going to eat. You have to position your steak in a way, because the judges can change the way your steak lays in the box. So basically, if you put your steak like this side is going to get cut, so you have a cross section and you have the presentation, and then they can only take a bite from the front of the steak. And guess what? That's the part where the hearts are. If you take a steak with the try hearts, you're gonna get a way bigger bite for the judges without them biting into the fat. I think Karen had really thought this through before starting on the competitions. And that is also probably the reason she won. I'm just gonna quickly vacuum these steaks put them in the fridge, store them for a later date. Before I'm going to do the rest of my preparations, I fired up my Napoleon Kettle Pro grill. Not only is Napoleon the sponsor of this video, they also make a great kettle grill which is absolutely perfect for competition barbecue. I put in a mix of charcoal and briquettes, put in a couple of fire starters and light them up. Now I'm going to wait for the fire starters to burn out and the charcoal to catch fire. First step of preparation actually consists of three steps. Number one is trimming the steak. You want to get rid of all the fat and all the silver skin that's sitting on the outside of the steak. Step 2 is pitting in toothpicks to stabilize the steak. And step 3 is to wrap around butcher's twine and change the shape of the steak into a round steak. Be careful, don't get it too tight, otherwise if you start grilling it starts to pop like a burger that's been pressed too hard. Now comes the actual tricky part because there is a marinade. But the marinade is basically a marinade out of a bag. And in a lot of these steak competitions, they use some type of bag. And Karen uses P&L marinade something. And I researched it, but it's a little bit different than the regular ones. But most of them use something called phosphate, E45. It's a tenderizer. I'm gonna leave it out. So basically, I'm just gonna make my own dry marinade, starting with a cube of dried beef broth. Half a teaspoon of curcuma, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of black pepper, half a teaspoon of white pepper, and 2 teaspoons of paprika powder, and half a teaspoon of dried glucose syrup, and half a teaspoon of MSG. Let's mix this up. I'm scared to actually taste this like that because it's so intense in flavor, or at least I expect it to be. Oh yeah, oh that's super powerful. Oh, that's umami. And now I'm going to add beef broth to the mix to really turn this into a marinade. Now the steak goes into a bag. I was wondering, they're talking about putting the steak and marinating it on 2 sides. And I was wondering, why would you marinate it on 2 sides if you can marinate it at once? Just put it in a bag. And you see, that's the difference between having it done a couple of times and having it not done before. That is why marinating it in a bag won't work. And I think that's proof that experience is a factor in these competitions. You can't just show up and expect to win just by looking at this video or somebody else's video. There's always going to be something they don't tell you just because they want to keep it to themselves and because they want to win. All right. So now I'm going to do like they told me in the first place, and I'm going to let this marinate on each side for 20 minutes. Now I need to get that steak dry. Pat it dry with a paper towel is what Karen says. So that's what I'm going to do. And it could just be me, or there's an actual change in the steak. Of course, you can see the change of color, but it's almost like I can see a change in structure too. It's like the pores open up on it. The last part of preparation is seasoning the steak, for which I'm going to use the PitmasterX beef seasoning first. Make sure it's even and connected. And then I'm going to use the PitmasterX Texas seasoning. And this is going to give me both color and flavor. Let's flip this around. Now I'm going to let it sit on the board as it is for about 10 minutes. There's one more thing you should know about people doing barbecue competitions and their judges. They love grill marks. It's got to be absolutely perfect. And yeah, of course, we're using the Napoleon grill, which makes amazing grill marks because of the cast iron grill grates. And it just has so much power and so much energy. It turns your grill marks into pure beautiness. But it's not enough because they got to be square or diamond shaped. But therefore I'm going to need special grill grates. These grill grates. If you don't have these grill grates, you're not going to win. It's game over. I'm going to pre-season these grill grates, these special grill grates, because I want them to be non-stick. I'm going to use a little bit of neutral cooking oil. I'm just going to brush it on. So I'm picking this up by hand and I'm actually going to put it on the spatula. But the important thing is I got to cover the fat with the spatula, and that means the fat's not going to touch the grill grate. So this is the way I'm going to put it on the grill. But that's not all. I'm also going to put on a weight to make sure we're going to get good sear marks. I'm going to close that lid, and now I got to wait 1.5 minutes. So let's set a timer. And oh, by the way, you're going to need something like an infrared thermometer to keep track of that temperature of the grill grate so it's even. Set it to 1 minute and 30 seconds. Should have probably done this before because we're now closer to 1 minute. I know, I'm definitely no match for Karen. Oh man, this is so stressful. I'm not ready yet, but the time, there it is. The timer already says, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. All right, let's take a look. Wowzers. Look at that. Look at those sear marks. They're a little dark for my taste, but definitely good sear marks. Now I used this part, so I have to now go in a different part. And this is an awesome way that I can test now to see how I like my grill marks. So I'm gonna be like that. So I'm gonna go a little shorter than the last time. I'm probably gonna do like a minute or so. Oh yeah, look at that. Isn't she a beauty? That is absolutely freaking gorgeous. Of course, I'm also gonna do the other side. Let's clean this up in between. Clean is key here. You don't wanna have burned residue of your last sear. And I also have to re-season it. Whoa, wowzers. Wowzers. That's it. A little pressure, a weight. There we go. Close the lid. Plenty of sear mark. Let's do it here. There we go. Weight on. This is super stressful. I got 40 seconds. I got 30 seconds left. This is going to be exciting. This is going to determine if we did a good job or not. All right, let's have a look. Yeah, buddy. Wowzers. Look at that. I'm highly doubting that the steak is cooked yet. And because it's a competition steak, we need to cook this. Oh, that's definitely not cooked. I'm using the chef temp, but we're only at 36, so we now need to cook this over indirect heat. We can't put it on the grill grates. Grill grates are hot. We need to figure out a different way to do this. I found this rack, and it's an extender rack to the Napoleon kettle grill. You see, this is now cold, and so I can really have indirect heat because all of the charcoal's here. I got indirect heat, and I got my standard rack, which is cold, so it's not gonna mess with my sear marks. Let's put the steak on, set it down gently. There we go. Close the lid. And now we're going to slowly let it come up to a temperature of 57 degrees Celsius, which is way more than I would normally do. But because we're in a barbecue competition, we're cooking it to medium. Some people in the judging teams still might be a little scared of the rare thing. Compared to putting the sear marks on, this surprisingly takes a long time. I thought we would be further than that we are right now, because when I seared it, I hit a 36 degrees Celsius on the mark. But now I'm only at 46 degrees Celsius and I already have it in the grill for about 15 minutes. So I'm wondering, timing is a thing too. If you're doing competition and you have to deliver the steak just in time, make sure you're starting in time. Just a thought. Just a thought. And one little secret that I didn't show you yet because I'm saving it for the last moment is that I have a little butter right here and I'm going to brush on. It's going to give the steak a nice little shine, but you don't want to put it on too early, because if you put it on too early and it's going to turn cold and blah 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 blah. So you want to have that butter at a sweet spot, at the point where you think, I'm about to pull it off. Put the butter on. That butter. Come on. Yeah, buddy, butter, buddy. I'm going to take it off. It also needs to rest, so we're going to take it off a little early. I'm also going to take off the butter. That'd probably be safe. Take off the butter. So many things going on. Take off the butter. Safety first. Don't put it on the floor if you're wearing flip-flops. I want you to look at this. This thing is absolutely beautiful. It is perfect. I'm going to cut the wire. It's my new EDC, by the way. I had it for a couple of months now and I'm falling in love. There we go. Let's get the toothpicks out. Even though I removed a little bit of the fat right there, you can see it's tearing. Resting is better done in the box than resting it right here on the board. Because if you rest it here on the board, there's not going to be any juices. That's just my opinion. I'm not an expert. I never did a steak competition. What am I talking about? I shouldn't be giving advice like that. And Karen didn't tell me about it, so I'm just going to shut up. Now, we do need to look at the autonomy, because this is what Karen's talking about and what I see other specialists talking about. You see that? That is the bite that you want your judges to taste. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bites. So this is the bottom half, and that needs to go towards the judges. So this steak would go into the box like this. That's it. And then the most terrible thing ever is going to happen. It's going to get cut. All right, let's slice into it. We need to do this anyway because I need to show you guys the way it looks on the inside at that moment. And then we have two halves. So one for the judges to look in the inside of, and one to actually eat. Now the trick is that if you give it a little bit of time, the redness is going to oxidize. So The steak on the inside is naturally pink, but if you give it time, it's going to become more and more red. So depending on how long they wait for the judges to actually see this box after it's been cut, that's also going to depend the redness. Hopefully they cut it at the table and they look at it straight away, and then you're going to see that, well, you're going to see that we got a nice cuisson. That's what I want to see. Look at that, that's nice. That's nice, it's nice. So medium cooked. And then what the judges do, they're going to take a plastic fork and knife and they're going to start cutting into that edge of that spinalis. And they're going to get a bite out of it that is this big, this big. Why? That small. You have to understand the judges, they don't want to eat tons of meat that is over seasoned. They only get one bite to judge it. But they eat but they eat probably between 80 and 100 steaks. So how much of this do they actually want to eat? They only want to take a little bite. So this is the bite. Wow. That is so much flavor. I really thought I was going to hate this. That is so much flavor. Wow. What the? It is soft, it's tender, and it has so much flavor. It's juicy. Honestly, I think I might enter a barbecue competition. I'm thinking about it. But I now need to know if there is an SCA judge watching this and thinking, I got some comments on that. I could actually score that. A contestant, could we make the top 10? And if not, what do I need to change to make it to the top 10? Thank you guys for watching. A big thanks to Napoleon for sponsoring this episode, because yeah, without Napoleon, we wouldn't have the barbecue community that we have today. And see you guys in the next video. Cheers, guys.